a bitterly cold British day, the coldest day of the year so far, so I'm told, and luckily we're taking shelter within the warmth of this Mercedes-Benz Citan Traveliner. Now this is Mercedes-Benz first small commercial van ever, and this specific one is the model that's spec'd with 7 seats and windows, so it's sort of along the same lines as your Citroen Berlingo, Ford Transit Connect, that sort of segment. Now this is based upon the Citan van, as I was saying, and Mercedes-Benz played a clever move actually, as this was their first small van. Obviously they've made bigger ones like the Sprinter completely in-house. They paired up with Renault to produce this car to save a vast quantity of money on engineering and development. And so this car shares its platform with the Renault Kangoo. Now, some people might say, well, doesn't that just make it a rebadged Renault? Well, in some respects, yes, but Mercedes-Benz have actually gone to the effort of reworking the steering and the suspension and tweaking a few other bits just so the car is much more Mercedes-Benz-like. You'll notice the 3-pointed star on the nose. That's the sort of thing that if you buy this in van form or even like this, it gives the car a little bit more prestige to the people on the pavement you drive past. Whilst how Mercedes-Benz like it is for another point coming up, to most people, to most passers-by, the fact that it's a Mercedes-Benz, particularly for a small business, it adds that extra shine to your deliveries or transporting co-workers around. So, to the car itself, it is powered by a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder diesel engine producing 110 horsepower and 240 newton meters of torque. And it's a nice engine actually. On the motorways it feels relatively strong. Okay, low down in the rev range it doesn't have too much, but once the engine sort of gets on song, then we've got a good level of performance, and the torque is actually very useful for overtaking manoeuvres and the like. Now, I mentioned how Renault-like this Mercedes-Benz could well be. Well, I can say that Mercedes' revisions to the steering and suspension are actually really welcome, because the steering, whilst not the most direct steering and doesn't make the car feel the most agile, it's very reassuring, it's well weighted, it's not too much effort, but equally it's not like playing with feathers. And all in all, I have to say the steering revisions really pay off, but the biggest payoff in terms of Mercedes changes is the suspension, because they've really struck a very good balance between not being too firm, I mean it's not the softest, but then also not enabling too much roll through the corners. That's a very difficult balance that many manufacturers struggle to come together with, but this car really has hit the nail on the head here. It rides over our lumpy, bumpy British roads very nicely, and passengers haven't really complained too much at all. What I will complain about, however, is the lack of support on offer from these seats. Whilst they're okay for an hour or so on a 2.5-hour motorway journey like I had to make the other day, they do start to become quite uncomfortable, and they sort of lack a bit of lateral support as well. That said, the fit and finish of the cabin feels very strong, very solid, and you're very much reminded that you're in a Mercedes product from the 3-pointed star glinting at you at in the steering wheel. Now this car is fitted with cruise control and a speed limiter, and also the red metallic paint as an option, bringing this specific van, or Traveliner as Mercedes would like me to call it, up to about £20,500 including tax, which is still actually not too badly priced and considerably cheaper than what Mercedes-Benz could offer this fresh product themselves had they built it independently away from Renault. So in the back we've got a row of 3, which has plenty of headroom. As you can see, this stretches all the way back. Oh, I forgot to mention this little cubbyhole shelf type thing up here, and there's lots of other cubby holes around the place, making it really nice practical family space. But that bench in the middle sits 3 adults perfectly fine, and the transmission tunnel is nice and low, which means the middle passenger's legs aren't sort of straddling what would usually be where the transmission tunnel is. Further back there are 2 more seats which are also removable, so the whole thing folds flat and the 2 back seats come out if you felt the need to use this as a van. Again, space for 2 adults back there, which is fantastic, and then there is a small amount of boot room behind those. Entry to the cars gained via the 2 sliding doors at the side, which are lovely because you don't have to worry about people clanging doors in car parks, and they're plenty big enough to get big objects in and out of as well. There are also at the back the 2 classic sort of barn doors, which again, if you're using this as a van, is really helpful because huge loads can just fit in that nice big open space, and there's a very low load lip there as well, so well done for Mercedes and Renault for thinking of that. The only downside of those doors is obviously rear visibility is obscured by the join of the 2 of them. However, one of the largest of the 2 glass windows back there is actually heated, which is a nice touch considering that this is maybe seen as more of a commercial vehicle. It's a nice sort of quality to have in the car. The 6-speed gearbox has a nice throw to it, falls to hand very easily, it's geared very well and actually quite efficiently. We've been getting some really reasonable fuel economy figures here as well. Read the full review for that on the website. I can't quote you them right now, but the full review on the website will have the MPG figures for you. And overall, yeah, it's a really solid package, this car. I mean, whether it has enough to challenge the Ford Transit Connect, certainly not in drivability terms, because I mean the Ford is a much more involving car to drive, and it got a lot of praise for that. But as a car to sit down in and maybe have a prestige badge on the front for clients to see and take a bit more notice of you, then the Citan certainly ticks a lot of boxes for small cars.